any of you are having collaborations with the Japanese companies or something, all this, what is taught in the modern quality management systems, the Japanese had already learnt it before the advent of these systems. They were using it, and now today the world has it. The reason for that, as I have also learned, because during part of my career we did have a collaboration with a Japanese company. They say unless the product quality is a direct outcome of your system quality. Product quality is not something that you should concentrate only on the product and try to build it into that, but you have to concentrate on the system. And then when I talk of the process or the system, the process is starting from your pre-ordering stage to the order processing, to the manufacturing process, the purchase, the inventory control, and right up to the final delivery to the customer. Product quality is very important, no doubt about that. It is vital, but nowadays in the globalizing world, it plays a very small part, though a very vital one, but it is still small part of the whole quality of the system. And once you understand this is what will give the edge to your business. We all talk about the process model. What is the process model? The process model is very simplistically, you have to decide the objectives and the goals. That is the end result that you want from your business, what you finally want to achieve. Having done that, you have to plan and define the process for doing it. Once you are through defining the process, you have to define the standard operating procedures for that process at each stage, as well as the activities. Verify these, validate these. Up to this point, everybody is very clear. We all do that in the industry. But now, what comes is, there is a slight change which I had adopted during my working career, and again which was taught to me by my teachers and by my bosses, etc. The change now that I am talking about is at this stage, you have to detach yourself from the end result. The focus shifts. The focus shifts from the product to the process. The process is now verified and validated, so you don't keep concentrating on the end product and try to bring in the features and the parameters, but now concentrate on the process. If you concentrate on the process or your standard operating procedures, the way you have break them down, which will lead to your final result, the result is guaranteed. You really don't have to be so fanatical about the end result. I think this kind of thing sounds very familiar. I give you now my interpretation why it sounds familiar. Most of us have read, most of us have heard our ancient Hindu philosophy, Gita. Now if you really look at Gita, it expounds all the management principles that are existing today. They are all you will find expounded in Gita to a varying degree. Any principle, any modern management tool that you take, you will find a reference for that in Gita. Diverting from the topic a little bit, even if you talk of CSR, corporate social responsibility, that is very well enunciated in Gita. I am not talking about that at the moment. Now, Gita, most learned people have given the Gita their own interpretation. Now, Gita is unique from that point of view that there are many interpretations available, but all ultimately yield or take you to the same end result. There is a famous saying in Gita, most of us know it, we have heard it many times, that is karmanya vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Many people misinterpret it, many people interpret that in different ways. The way I interpret it is, I think that that is the beginning point of a process model. When it tells you that ma phaleshu kadachana means don't bother about the end result, it does not actually mean don't bother about the end result. All it says is that detach yourself from the end result and concentrate on the process that you are doing it. That is the meaning, that is how I look at it. And in very simplistic terms, karma is your process, phala is your result, and ma phaleshu kadachana is detachment from the end result, that is phala, and focus on the process, that is karma. That is how I had interpreted it, and it is a very good thing. If you cannot detach yourself from the end result, whether it is in life, now I am talking about specifically the industry, your goals, your objectives, if you cannot detach yourself from the end result, then it actually means whatever you are doing in your organization would be like catching the wrong end of the stick. That's the only way I would put it. Second factor that I talked about was the cost. We have heard in the first lecture, the first presentation, as well as in the second, the finance is a very, very important thing. There are many intricacies. Nobody needs to understand the complicated financial models. There are always experts available for that, right? So whatever finance you want to generate, the current ratios, everything, yes, you should be aware of it, but nobody needs to understand. Why is cost so important? But cost is one factor. Whether you are an engineer, whether you are a chemist, whether you are a physicist, if you are running a business or working in a business, cost is also one of the most important factors that you have to understand. What makes cost so important? What is that? What that makes cost so important? Today, unlike in the past, when I started my career in an engineering industry, it was practically a seller's market, particularly in the automobile sector. Today, if you see that in no product, no commodity or no service, it has remained a seller's market. It is entirely the buyer's market. The choice of buying your product rests solely with the buyers. There are no artificial barriers, there are no licensing, there are no limits on what and how much you should produce. What used to happen in the seller's market? And that concept, unfortunately, even after the death of seller's market, continued for a long time. What we, in costing terms, accountant will call it as a cost plus approach. Cost plus approach really does not work today. A cost plus approach is what? A cost plus approach is simply whatever your product is, you put some figures together and decide this is going to be the cost of my product. That remains fixed. Then you talk about plus, that is the margin. Margin is what you play around with, right? And that margin, the plus actually becomes your negotiating margin when you are trying to sell the product, right? And then when you want to maximize the margin, all that you end up doing is you want to increase the price. That is one of the older ways of increasing your margin or profit margin that I talked about. In the buyer's market, now the concept has changed a little bit. It is whatever is your price is the cost to your buyer. He views that as your cost. Price is not determined by your costs nowadays. It is determined by the market forces, and that remains fixed. That remains fixed. And then it becomes the only way to increase your margins is to optimize or reduce your costs. And that is where the understanding of costs becomes important. Again, I'm not going to elaborate any model. Each one of us must have already worked out their own cost models. The whole idea is that for any product or any item that goes into your product, all that you have to do is list down what are all the cost elements that are going to do with it. And the analysis means that whatever is controllable by you and what is not controllable by you. There will be elements which are not controllable by you. You have to see that whether those non-controllable elements some semblance of control can be brought on them and something can be done about it. The ones that are controllable, you should definitely control. Again, the horizon. You have to, now you are again looking at your product and analyzing the costs, but you have to now expand the horizon. You are not looking at the cost of an individual item or an individual product that you are making, but now you have to look at the cost of the whole process, start to finish, right up to the delivery to the customer. That is the process that we are talking about. At each stage of the process, you can actually list down what are the costs are going to be. Right? The entire process from pre-order to delivery, if you can start minimizing the costs, that is how you will be able to deliver the product effectively. The third point that I talked about was delivery. I used to confuse it. I don't think now with the knowledge that is there and the internet and many advanced techniques, you will be confusing it. But during my time, many of my colleagues also did confuse delivery with dispatch. The minute you dispatch out your product from your factory, you consider that delivery is effective. The fact remains that delivery is not yet effective. The delivery becomes complete when the goods or your product reaches the customer and he accepts it. That is the only time that the delivery is complete. And how will the customer accept it? The receipt by the customer. Again, the three very basic element things. He requires it at the right time, he requires it at the right place, and he requires in the right quantities and with the right kind of packing. And these are one of the elementary things if you satisfy. Many buyers, that is your customers, have resorted to, to reduce their inventories. They have resorted to JIT, G-I-T they call it, just in time. And they give you a daily schedule, they give you a 2-day schedule, or they give you a weekly kind of schedule, and you have to invert it. In reality, what has happened actually is that, I know it because since I was a part of the auto sector, all that the auto giants have done it as they have simply transferred their stocks to their vendors. They haven't done anything great in that. The cost remains the same, but instead of the auto giants bearing the cost, it is the small and medium scale industries, they are bearing that cost. That needs to be avoided by the small and medium industries who are supplying to these kinds of giants. But again, in this supply management, there would be many tools available. There could be groupings which can be done, and therefore there is an advent of logistics suppliers at many places which again charge you, but there could be hundreds of ways by which these costs again can be minimized. In a nutshell, which I am going to end now, is quality, cost and delivery. If you can satisfy these three things to the delight of your customers, I think your business would be on the sound track. The financial aspects that we have seen at the beginning of this session, as well as the ratings that were very ably enunciated over here, all these things would happen and would have a relevance if your process and your product is strong. They are only the support tools, but the main thing is your product and your delivery to the customer. If you focus on the process with these three factors, I don't think you will be only merely taking steps toward success, but I think they would be giant leaps. Right? Thank you. Thank you for hearing me for the last 15 minutes.